then staring at my ugly face for a half hour.
Meh. All right. So just to kind of then give everybody just a little rundown here, right? And Chiron, if you want to come join us again here soon too. But so Eddie is joining us today. Professional caster, host, and analyst, primarily for Rocket League, I believe I saw.
Yep.
Located even here in the state of Wisconsin, which is awesome to see hometown representation.
Yeah.
So the reason why I've invited so many people today and a little bit of yesterday was just so these students can learn a little bit about like what it takes to get into the industry, where you've come from since you were maybe in high school as well, and essentially any advice that you may have for individuals that are trying to pursue this career avenue. So
Perfect.
I guess I'll just kind of launch it to you as you made us a nice presentation even today.
Yeah, and I mean, I basically everything that you hit on, Mike, is exactly what I wanted to talk to people about. If you couldn't have guessed, I'm a caster, so I love talking. So they kind of, they go hand in hand a little bit. Hopefully, people can actually see the presentation, everything. It's nothing super interesting. If you can't see it, you're not going to miss anything. It's just a lot more visually interesting than I am. So we'll kind of throw that out for you. But also, if we do have the opportunity for some audience participation, I will never say no to that. Feel free to stop, ask questions at any time. We'll have questions at the end as well. And during the presentation, I'm probably going to hit you out with a question or two as well. So we'll just kind of go. So my name is Eddie. I'm also known as Trippin on the internet. I've been known as Trippin on the internet for a very, very long time. It's like 10-something years at this point. A lot of people always like to know, like, hey, how'd you get your handle? What really came of that? So I've always liked video games. I've been playing since the original Nintendo came out. My dad had one, and we played it all the time together in the living room. So it's been a lifelong thing for me. And when I had a PlayStation 2 back when I was in high school, way back when in the old days, I had a copy of Madden like 2005 or 2006, and I played the absolute crap out of that game. And there was a really, really good tight end that was automatically generated by Madden, and his last name was Tripp. So I started registering my handle as Tripp on a bunch of different services, and I found out that that was taken a lot of the time. So I changed the I to a 1. Well, that was also taken on a lot of sites. So then I added the extra N because it sounds like a word and has no vowels, and I thought that it looked cool because I was an edgy 14-year-old, and here we are all these years later, and the name still sticks. So a little bit more just about me in general and who I am. So as I mentioned, I'm Trippin on Twitch and Twitter. Those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me. I'm on Discord as well. I'm primarily a commentator for Rocket League. I've done a lot of different events. I've done all the way up to RLCS for the South American region, North American region, for Europe. I've done a lot of high school Rocket League as well. So if any of you guys happen to be high school Rocket League players, I might have cast you once or twice or heard of your name once or twice. I do kind of follow the esport in the state and around the country as much as I can. I also have my own small little production company for streaming and casting Rocket League. Me and a couple of friends that are all good at it and like what we do have kind of just built a little thing, a little niche for us to do when we have the good times. Outside of that, I was born in Pennsylvania. I've been living in Wisconsin for a little over 20 years. Like I said before, I grew up in Hartford, which I'm not exactly, I'm assuming that you're in the Milwaukee area. So Hartford, if you just hop on 41 North, get off on Highway 60, head west for about 15 minutes, you'll end up in tiny little Hartford. So that's where I went to high school, graduated from there, got my bachelor's degree at UW Oshkosh in radio, TV, and film. I'm currently pursuing my master's of business administration there as well. I've cast for about 3 years, and I have about 10 years of professional experience in the field of IT, information technology, whatever you might want to call it. So I can answer and talk to you guys a lot about a lot of different things, which is kind of where I get to my next point here, and my first item of audience participation. Whether it's you're live right now with Mike or if you're in Discord, who knows what they want to do when they grow up? I see one hand raised. Okay, what do you guys want to do when you grow up?
For me personally, I would say like software engineering and like coding maybe.
So software engineering.
Cool.
Military.
Anything in the military specific, or you just want to be No, like, what do you want to do in the Army? Like, there's different jobs.
Combat.
You want to be combat. Okay.
All right. Anyone in Discord got any opinions? If anyone is there and you're streaming too,
Let's see here. Anybody in the chat?
feel free to just shout it out.
I know for sure that Andrew is probably watching. He's our current Rocket League caster. And so I know he wants to, his quote in the paper was, "I want to be the next Al Michaels." So,
hey, you know what? Al Michaels is a good one to model yourself after. I cannot be rude. I do see a hand behind you as well.
Chiron may just have a question. Is it a question or an answer to the question that you've already answered?
Did IT help you get into esports?
Yes, actually, we will cover that.
Yeah.
So the reason that I asked why you guys think you might want to know what you do when you grow up is because I have a very similar story, and it's a long journey and it's very confusing. And the point that I really wanted to make was just be flexible. When I was coming out of high school, I was just like the person sitting to your left, Mike, and I also wanted to go into software engineering. I wanted to work with computers. I wanted to, make what Microsoft was making because I thought that was super cool, and that's what I wanted to get into. So I started my college career with a degree in computer science. I took one class, and I absolutely hated it. It was a horrible class. Like I was awesome at it. I just hated doing it. It just sucked. It sucked the life out of me. I'm a very, very extroverted person. I really like talking and connecting with people. Software engineering ain't it. It is not it. So I changed my path a couple different times in college. I wanted to be a teacher for a little while. I was going to get a degree in physics and mathematics. I thought that seemed cool for a little while. Thought about business for a little bit. I changed a lot, and I made a lot of different decisions. And what I really want you guys to know is it doesn't matter what you want to do today. It matters what you do with it and what you do along the journey, and take those opportunities to be flexible. You never know when you're going to get an opportunity to do something. Just give yourself a chance to experience those things. It's going to make a huge difference. So as I'm saying in my professional journey, eventually I determined to study radio, television, and film at UWO. It was awesome. I had a great time in it. If you couldn't tell, it's kind of exactly how I got here. Most of my time I spent focusing on radio. The big thing that I determined that I wanted to do when I was in college was do commentating. And I really enjoy baseball. It's by far my favorite sport. Massive Brewers fan. And I wanted to go into baseball commentary. So I spent a lot of time on the radio doing lots of different things, had a good time there. And at the end of college, I was stuck with a choice. Do I take a job that I love, or do I take a job that pays off my student loans? And shockingly enough, I went with the one that was going to pay the bills. So I started working in IT at UWO in 2012, right out of college. I had already had an internship with them that I kind of stumbled upon. And the reason that the picture that you see on the right-hand side of the screen is because that is literally one of the computer labs that I helped put together when I was an intern at UWO. I mean, I put those computers on those desks. I work with those computers every day. So that's the kind of stuff that I was into when I was doing it at that time. After a couple of years, decided that I was sick of the direction that the university was moving. There is a joke that Mike will probably laugh at, and no one else will get, where if the world is ever going to end and you just need a little bit more time, go to a college campus, because nothing happens slower than at a university. So I kind of got sick of how things were going there, and I quit. And I went to work for a managed services provider, which is in IT as well. And basically, I went from fixing the computers to selling people the computers. I thought it would be a great chase of pace, would give me an opportunity to, connect with more people on a different level, and thought that that would be awesome. Turns out, jokes on me, it wasn't. It was awful. It was the worst job I've ever had. I don't think I liked more than about 3 months of working there. They didn't particularly care for me either, and I ended up getting fired a little over a year ago. And, as I said before, one of the things I really wanted to hit on was to be flexible with what you're doing. This is a great example of how to be flexible. There's a lot of skills that I picked up over the years to kind of, help me figure out what I liked and what I wanted to do, and to always remember, like, hey, what got me into this? What are the things that I truly enjoy about what it is that I'm doing, whether it's for a living or not? Just because you're not making money on something doesn't mean it's something you like doing. You should absolutely keep those passions fired. And that's exactly what happened. I said, okay, I got fired. Fantastic. I'm done with this job. I can put it behind me. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And I decided to start really sinking my time and energy into what it was I wanted to be doing. So I put a lot more time into casting, and I put a lot more time into myself professionally, and ended up getting hired for the first job that I applied for after I got fired. Literally the next morning, about 9 o'clock or so, I applied for the job I currently have at Associated Bank. I absolutely love it. Strongly recommend it. If you need a job, hit me up. There's a great center down in Milwaukee that we're working on that I strongly recommend. So how in the world does any of this lead to esports? I know that was a question that came up, and I want to kind of help you out with how I mix these two things together. So I've been playing Rocket League since 2015. I joined a competitive league in 2018 called RSC. It was literally the first Discord server that I ever joined. I signed up for Discord, and 3 days later, I signed up for RSC to give you an idea of just how long I've been doing that. I've been commentating since 2019. I led the media committee within RSC for a year and a half. I made a great connection with UGC, who you may have heard of since you guys are in the high school esports scene. And that really kind of launched the career. How do IT and casting mix? Well, it's mostly because I make great connections with people. Anyone who has ever worked in IT will tell you, you don't get in IT to work with the computers, you get in IT to work with the people. Anyone who thinks otherwise has not worked in IT. So, connecting with people and building those relationships is really kind of what got me to this point, and what kind of, made me the caster that I am today. It also helps because IT really forces you to think on the fly. You get asked a lot of questions that you have absolutely no idea how to answer. If you've ever talked to someone who seems that they know the answer to everything and they're answering all your questions really easily, it's probably not because they happen to know all of those things. It's because maybe they looked it up once. Maybe they read a sentence in a book once. Maybe they got asked that question one other time before. A lot of my job is just knowing how to do research. And coming up with those sorts of answers. And casting and working in esports is very, very similar. It's kind of a young, growing sort of thing. There's a lot of questions that no one knows the answers to. There's a lot of innovations that we can make that we haven't even started to try to make yet because the ideas aren't there. We don't know what to do. And that's why we're looking always in this field for new people to figure new things out. What do we want to do that we haven't been doing? I mean, some of the coolest games that we're going to play, 5 years from now, haven't even been thought of yet. So that's something that can certainly come about. So I wanted to take another moment here to ask you all a question. I know a couple in there, very chatty folks, and also in the Discord chat. So based on what I've told you and what you guys already know, what do you think the most important things are to get yourself started in an esports career?
Karen?
Are you still broadcaster?
Yeah, he wants to know your answer to this, though.
I think
All right, Steven?
I feel like to get started, it's actually because you need to find your target demographic, I believe.
Target demographic?
Yeah, like for example, like it's because it can be like in terms of games, people, etc. But I would say mostly games.
Okay.
I think to get started and what are the most important things, I would say just playing esports, because I mean, for the most part, not a lot of people go into esports without playing one at some point, even if it wasn't a mainstream one. I mean, just picking up, I don't know, the dinosaur game or Tetris once or twice. I mean, that's, I would say, the most important thing.
Steven?
I like that.
I would also say finding people who are like passionate about it too.
Karen,
Okay,
you got an
good.
answer? What is it? Based on what you know, what would you say are the most important things to get started in esports?
I want to know how to play the game.
Know how to play the games. Simple.
I like that. So anyone in the chat?
Let's see here. Knowing the people around you, gaining knowledge of a game, especially if you're casting a specific game or just playing it. is what we
Good.
got from our chat. So
Perfect. Well, that means that we are all on the same page. If you haven't guessed, leading questions are one of my favorite things. So I wanted to highlight that it is a lot more than just one tiny little thing. And it goes back to, again, to being flexible with a couple different things, two of which are things that you guys mentioned, which is excellent because it means that your heads are in the right place and you're thinking about this a little bit more like holistically, a little bit more big picture, rather than just kind of like little itty bitty timelines. One thing that came up a lot in your guys' answers is do something you like. Play the game, understand the game. That is a huge part of it. But it's the thing about esports that's great. And there's a tweet that's been going around, Mike. I don't know if you have seen it, but there was someone who just posted, you know, for esports groups that don't like, if you're having issues with administrators who are having trouble like getting onto the esports train, it's like for every one of these, and it's an esports player, there's a whole team of these, and it's a huge list of all of the support staff that have to go behind an esports player. It's more than just playing the game. There are plenty of people that love video games but suck at them. I'm standing right in front of you today because I love video games and I suck at every single one of them. There's not a single one of them that I'm good at. I've played 3,000 hours of Rocket League. I suck at Rocket League, okay? Like, I'm like champ 2 on a good day, a really good day. So there's a lot more that goes into it, though. I'm very passionate about talking about it. I'm very passionate about getting people engaged in it. And that's just the game itself. There's still support staff, you know, putting the stage together, running the business operations, managing the projects, getting the IT equipment together. Like, there's so much more that can be involved that just doing something you like will ultimately lead you down the correct path within esports. Like, you will absolutely find a place for yourself in that sport. I also heard a little bit of who it is that you know is kind of important. Yeah, it absolutely is. Now, it kind of sounds a little bit defeatist to just say, oh yeah, everybody is, you know, all you have to do is know somebody. You just magically get a job. And the only way that people ever rise to the top is because they know someone. I mean, that's like 30% true, but it's also, you have to still know what you're doing. You still have to, you know, have those skills, but also be personable. Build meaningful relationships with other people. You never know who is going to step into your life at what time they're going to be there, what they might be able to do for you, or just how you can do things. You know, through a series of events on Twitter, I ended up with this today. This is a tiny little duck that is a keycap from HyperX that is wearing a HyperX headset. It's the most adorable thing ever. I love this thing. And through a series of just building a handful of relationships, I got that sent to me from HyperX. So, you know, just building those meaningful relationships is super helpful. And one thing going into the future that, again, you're probably not thinking about right this second because of where you are in your lives, and that's okay. But know what you're worth. There is a huge discussion that's going on kind of behind the scenes right now in all of the esports industry, especially for casters and producers, where people are just expecting that talented people are going to show up and talk about something they're passionate about just because they like it. And they're going to do it for free, and they're going to put all this time and effort into it. And that's just the way that the industry should be, because that's what I had to do, so that's what you have to do, and all of this other stuff. In my opinion, that's completely ridiculous. You should know what you're worth, and you should ask for what you're worth. If you think that you have a lot of talent in a particular thing, and you think that your time is worth $50 an hour, tell someone that, and make them tell you no. And if they tell you no, tell them why you are worth it. And if they don't want to work with you because you're too expensive, that's fine. There is always another opportunity that'll be down the line that you can pick up. Someone is probably going to pick up the thing behind you for $4 or for free or for whatever. Fine. Good for them. Let them build that relationship because that's meaningful to them. But if you're doing something that you like and you happen to get paid for it, that's awesome. If you really want to put in, you know, if you think that the time and effort that you're putting into something is worth not getting paid for it, that's fine too. There's casting gigs that I've taken that are way below my rate, or even free, because the organizations that I was working with or the things that I were doing were so important to me personally. I didn't care. You know, because of the communities that it was building up, because of the people that it was for, because of the awesome people that I was working with, the friendships that I was building, that was enough for me because I know what I'm worth and I know what that's worth to me.
And I think, and I'm just going to say from my perspective, like, it's really hard in the beginning in order to say no to some of those opportunities. But I mean, that point just really rung like really clear to me, because the amount of people that approach you in this space because of your talent or expertise, that either wants to get that knowledge or expertise for free, or expects that, that you're going to be willing to take a pay cut for what you know how to do, because you want to go and help them with this. Like, I mean, some of the early local events that I tried to do were unpaid, and even having to get a hotel room or driving down to like Indianapolis for an event, like it was expected that I wasn't to pay anything. And it's like, as a teacher, I get like 1 to 2 personal days off a year, and they expected me to use both of my personal days to go down to this event in Indianapolis that's unpaid, that they're not paying for my hotel, they're not even giving me a couch to crash on. Like, I would have taken a floor at that point, like,
Right.
because that would have been free compared to $300 for a hotel room for 2 nights. But like, yeah, like that one's huge, and it's hard to
it really
say
is.
no and ask for what you're worth.
Yeah, it is very, very difficult to say no. I would say there is a certain art form to it. And, at the same time, knowing how to say no, you also need to learn how to be told no. There's a lot of times you're going to ask for something, or you're going to want to do something, and someone is going to tell you no. And you're probably going to have to prove it to them. A lot of times, there's an age old adage that I'm sure that Mike and I's parents both told us is, if you want something done right, do it yourself. Sometimes the adage is also, if you want something done at all, you need to do it yourself. You need to, have that passion and have that drive to go ahead and do it. And again, be willing. Sometimes, like you said, Mike, sometimes they're going to say no and it's going to be dumb, but you know that it has to happen for the greater good. Sometimes you just have to do things for the greater good. And it does suck. It sucks a lot. I've done plenty of things that were for the good of other people that had absolutely no benefit to me whatsoever, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes. But that's still a great point, though. It's not just, esports. It's not just casting. It's literally every profession ever is going to have stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure we had a couple minutes for questions. I know my time is technically until noon, but I'm on my lunch, so I do have a little bit of time. If there are any questions or any other discussions that you guys want to have, I'm happy to hang out with you for a little bit and talk about whatever I can.
Karen, go ahead. You had all the questions. Let's hear them.
When did you start casting?
So I started casting technically, like for esports anyway. I started casting about 3 years ago, in 2019. But through my college career, through going through the radio, TV, film program, I was commentating on live sports since I want to say 2011 or so, 2010, 2011. I did football, I did basketball, volleyball, wrestling, baseball, had a couple of sports talk shows, produced a number of different pieces. I also had a radio DJ show one night a week, which was a ton of fun. My minor in college was also journalism, so I did a lot of writing as well. So it's kind of been, a different journey, but for Rocket League specifically for about 3 years.
So I have one question to go with that. How much time do you put into preparation for casting?
It depends a little bit on the gig. Some of them I honestly don't prep at all because there's not much to prep. For some of these like smaller leagues or smaller organizations, it's like, well, what am I going to learn about players that nobody knows about? And you kind of have to build the story as you go along and kind of get information from other people and for other sources. But as the things get a little bit larger, more complex, people are more known, or it's a league with like a storied history, I would say I probably would put like an hour or two into preparation just so that I can figure out who's on what team. And, I've got 3 monitors up here, which is really nice, but I have to make sure, okay, Rocket League has to be in front of me and my ad read needs to be on top of it. And, my caster feed has to be over here. And, I'm making sure everything gets lined up appropriately, because taking that additional time to prep makes your life so much easier when you're in the moment, just by preparing and organizing and knowing where things are. I mean, even for this, like I was working at my actual desk for like an hour and a half, making sure I had this together and I knew what I was going to talk about, because it's important to have that preparation done.
Karan?
Would you do esports for the rest of your life?
Would you like to do esports for the rest of your life?
I mean, I think ultimately, I think it'd be great if I can make video games and casting and stuff like that, a part of my life forever. I think that would be fantastic. I certainly don't know in what capacity it will be, and I think it really goes back to that first point I made with you all this morning of be flexible. I have no idea what's going to happen. Like I said, I'm pursuing my master's of business administration right now. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities that could be had in esports with me combining what I know about the industry, what I love about the industry, and what I learned in school, and finding a way, to kind of take those opportunities that I've been afforded to kind of do things like this and to give back to the community and to help other people grow in the community, I think would be awesome. The longer I can do that, the better, because the longer that we allow people to be engaged with the things that they love and the things that they want to do, the better we're all going to be entirely.
All right, you got one more?
Do you have a bachelor's degree?
I do, yes. Yep. I went to school for, well, I mean, you're supposed to get your bachelor's degree in 4 years. That's also kind of hokey. Take as long as you need, do what you need to do when you're in college. Just understand the financial repercussions of what it is that you're doing. But I went to school for 5 years, and I'm very, very glad that I did. That 5th year was the most important year of school for me, was that final year.
I'm also a 5-year or so.
Of arts?
For me? No, mine.
No, bachelor's degree of arts.
So when he says bachelor's of arts, there's different schools, and sometimes your degree will be either a bachelor's of arts or a bachelor's of science. And there's different kind of schools and just names that go with it. But bachelor's is essentially just a 4-year degree.
Yep.
You can get as many bachelor's degrees as you want, as long as you're willing
as many as you've got money for.
Pay for them. Yeah. Yeah, if you're willing to pay for them. I think there was one, if I recall correct, there was like one guy at Whitewater that he was there for 12 years and he had like 3 or 4 bachelor's degrees. He just was just there.
Career in school.
And I'm pretty sure you're also paying with your time, and then you're paying with your lifespans, and then also time too.
Yeah.
I'll take 2 degrees now.
It might be, but some people just like school.
Yep.
Believe it or
I wouldn't
not.
want to be a professor because that would take like 8 years for me personally, and I can't wait that long. My lifespan is just too short for that.
I'll live to 2050.
I hope you live longer than 2050, Chiron. That's only 28 years away.
Yeah.
You should
far.
last.
I mean,
You should last longer than
I
that.
can see myself. I can see myself dying in like 2075 or something.
All right. I see. We're at our afternoon energy coming in here. So, Eddie, I want to respect your time as well as I know that we have one last one that I want to try to get to here. But I do thank you for your time and your expertise and your insight and willingness to share it with this group. I always love hearing other perspectives, and I think it's great. Like, you're one of the first ones that we've had on here who this isn't your full-time thing. This is your passion project. This is something, your side gig. And I think it's great to highlight that there are different ways that you can still participate in this community it doesn't have to be a full-time thing. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the extra money is nice, but it's not life or death kind of a situation. It's just something I love doing, and you should love it too. So thank you guys all for the time. If you do have other questions or you want to reach out to me, you can reach out again. Twitter or Twitch. Twitter is preferred. DMs TR1PPN. You can follow me. I've got Discord as well. If you guys happen to be on any one of those platforms, feel free to reach out anytime. I'm always happy to talk when I have it.
awesome. Thank you, Eddie. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, y'all. You too.
One more, here we go.
One more. And we'll see if he shows. He didn't.
Didn't show yesterday.